I want to point out something in this Revelation in the Stars video that is on YouTube that's talking about on October 9th. Multiple signs are appearing in the heavens, mainly in the constellations, the zodiac constellations, that point to the book of Revelation unfolding and starting to begin the Great Tribulation on October 9th. I just posted a video talking about this on my main channel, Sling and Stone, but there is something that they pointed out towards the end of their video that I didn't mention that I want to look at now, and it's about a nuclear prophecy in the Bible. Now, before we get to the end of this video, we'll look at a few verses that do sound like nuclear war is prophesied in the Bible, but something they mention is definitely not the right thing, and I just want to look at that right now. So we will take a look at this. Again, this is Revelation in the Stars, posted on Blow the Shofar channel.
What could all of this mean? Now that you have an understanding of the sign, let's take a closer look at the coming judgment. Revelation chapter 5 starts by describing a scroll written on both sides. I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne a scroll written on both sides. Revelation chapter 5. This could be interpreted as a reference to Zechariah chapter 5, which describes a flying scroll with writing on one side and then the other side.
So this is what I want to point out. They're making the reference here that in Revelation chapter 5, it's talking about a scroll, and it could be talking about a nuclear weapon. Now, this just is not the case at all. Revelation 5 gives us a very, very clear description of what this scroll means in the book of Revelation. And it tells us, and I saw in the right hand of him who sat on the throne, a scroll written inside and on the back, sealed with 7 seals. And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the scroll and to loose its seals? And no one in heaven or on the earth or under the earth was able to open the scroll or to look at it. So this whole chapter tells us the description of the scroll in heaven that is written. No one was worthy to open it except the Lamb. This is where we get the saying, worthy is the Lamb, because Jesus was able to open the scroll. And then the following chapters tell us that as Jesus opened the scroll, what we saw were the seals and the bowls and the vials, the wrath of God, the great tribulation and the wrath of God being poured out upon the earth. So this scroll referenced in Revelation 5 is not the reference to a nuclear bomb like they're mentioning here, but there are a few prophecies that sound like nuclear war will be involved in the last days. They get into it a little bit here, which we'll look at, and then we'll look at the most convincing verse, in my opinion, that nuclear type of weapons will be used in the end times wars. And we know that end times wars are prophesied, wars surrounding Jerusalem, the Battle of Armageddon in northern Israel, Gog and Magog. We know wars and rumors of wars are going to increase, so this is correct. But saying that the scroll mentioned in Revelation 5 is just very clearly not a nuclear weapon. And I just want to point that out. You can read it. It's Jesus getting ready to open the scroll that will release the wrath of God on the earth. Now, here's the few verses that they mentioned, then we'll look at one more that really sounds like nuclear type of weapons will be used in the end times wars.
Then I raised my eyes again and looked, and behold, there was a flying scroll. And then he said to me, this is the curse that is going forth over the face of the entire land. Everyone who steals certainly will be purged away according to the writing on one side, and everyone who swears falsely will be purged away according to the writing on the other side. I will make it go forth, declares the Lord of armies. Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 and 3. Notice how Zechariah describes a flying scroll flying in the sky between heaven and earth is similar to the context of the heavens as the stars from Revelation. And the angel said to me, what do you see? And I answer, I see a flying scroll. Its length is 20 cubits and its width is 10 cubits. Zechariah chapter 5, verses 1 and 2.
Of course, when Zechariah received prophecies similar to as John received prophecies on the island of Patmos for the book of Revelation, he could only use the understanding of things going on in the world that he knew at the time. And even with that, they give pretty clear descriptions of what we can look at now and see, like the sizes that he gives here in Zechariah 5, 1 through 2, sounds very much similar to the size of a weapon that would bring a nuclear type of explosion.
In the biblical context, the width of a roll would be its circumference, which equates to a 6-foot diameter and a height of about 37 feet. These are similar dimensions to nuclear missiles found throughout the whole world. I will bring it forth, saith the Lord of hosts, and it shall enter into the house as the thief, and into the house of him that swears falsely by my name. And it shall remain in the midst of his house, and shall consume it with the timber thereof and the stones thereof. Zechariah chapter 5, verse 4. A fire that consumes timber and stones is a very powerful fire. And don't forget that Babylon has been compared to a millstone. The angel then continues, See, what is this that goeth forth? And I said, What is it? And he said, This is an ephah that goeth forth. He said, Moreover, this is their resemblance through all the earth. Zechariah chapter 5, verse 6. From this we know that Zechariah is being shown an example of something for which many can be found throughout the earth. This is not some spiritualized flying scroll. An ephah is a 6-gallon or 22-liter container which is approximately the same volume as a nuclear warhead. With this understanding, we can conclude that Zechariah is describing a 6-gallon payload going forth with the flying scroll. A W-80 nuclear warhead has a volume of about 6 gallons, which is consistent with what the angel has told Zechariah. And behold, there was lifted up a talent of lead, and this was a fire offering to be fully consumed that sits in the middle of the ephah. Zechariah chapter 5, verse 7.
So, looking at these prophecies, it is pretty intriguing to see that the size given in Zechariah, as well as the container of what is holding what would be the explosion in a nuclear bomb, is very similar, almost exact to what, what is told to us in the prophecy in Zechariah. And not only that, but it seems that whole chapter of Zechariah has many different verses that point to this. We have the flying scroll, the length and the width, the size of what is being held inside of this ephah or container, which obviously, just like a missile looks like a container or an ephah, right? And then also we have in Zechariah 14:12, the prophecy told to us saying, And this shall be the plague with which the Lord will strike all the people who fought against Jerusalem. Again, wars in Jerusalem, a massive end time sign, what we're seeing now. Their flesh shall dissolve while they stand on their feet. Their eyes shall dissolve in their sockets, and their tongues shall dissolve in their mouths. The only thing that we know on this earth right now that has this type of capability is an explosion from a very hot nuclear type of weapon or something along these lines. This fits in exactly with that. There's really nothing else that we know of. So all these prophecies in the book of Zechariah do point to a massive weapon being used. Hopefully not soon, but what we're seeing in Israel right now with Iran, who has been working on building nuclear weapons for a long time. They said if they had one, they would use it against Israel. So the possibility of nuclear weapons being used in the not too near future is very possible in what we're seeing in the world right now, not only in Israel and Iran and the Middle East, but also what's going on in Russia, China, the United States, all the world's superpowers kind of getting ready for a massive type of war. And this could be very well what we're told in Zechariah the prophecy. But again, just to point out, the scroll in Revelation 5 is not a nuclear weapon. It's a scroll that was read in heaven that releases the wrath of God. This was kind of happened a lot in this video in Revelation in the Stars. They brought up a lot of interesting connections, but then sometimes they would make stretches of things that just are not the case, because the Bible clearly tells us, like Revelation 5, what that scroll's meaning is. So interesting connections, something worth considering, but always keep in mind that you want to go back to the Bible and don't just read a chapter. Like we have a chapter here or a verse here. Don't just read a verse, because the verse will tell you just one thing. Read the whole chapter, the chapter before and the chapter after, to get a much wider understanding of it. Not only that, take all the Bible and all prophecy into one picture, and then everything will start to fit together. Just wanted to point that out. Let me know what you guys think in the comments. Appreciate you watching. God bless.